Always happy to be here down at BYU. Love being here with you guys. It's really fun. I spend a lot of time with this, with the center, doing mentoring, part of the Associates Founders Group where we spend a lot of time with students with the CEO Club. I've been there many times. And so I just get a real thrill out of new businesses and helping people start those. And it's especially exciting to come here and talk about what we did at SolutionStream and what we're doing now, and hopefully infect some of you more if you don't already have it, and if you don't have it, give you the infection of entrepreneurship. It's the greatest thing. Talk about the best job description, the most job security, the best way to get what you want out of life. If you can make all that come together, it's a great way to do it. So let's just start off here with, see where my slides are. Still getting hooked up for a second. Is this just the arrow key to move it? There we go. All right, so let me just start with the high level of SolutionStream. Like Dr. Little said, I appreciate that introduction. We are a custom full service development shop. So basically anything that needs to get built that involves technology and software, we can build it. We tend towards higher end projects. A lot of our clients are very large companies who have serious problems to solve. They need multiple systems and databases and websites and mobile apps plug into all of that ecosystem. So that's typical of a lot of the projects we do. We also do some really tricky projects where an entrepreneur that's funded with money will come in and they just have a really challenging problem that they need to solve. I have a good friend right now who is actually talking to us about a project who sold his business and has done a phenomenal job selling it. I mean, he's made a lot of money and he's started the next thing, and he's come to us because he knows what most of our customers know, which is that as tricky as software is and to do all of this and as expensive as it is, our company can do this right, and we can do it the first time. That sounds like, you know, like maybe an easy promise. Maybe it sounds a little too lighthearted, but I'll paint the picture of what I think it's really like, and then kind of lead you back up to why I think we're doing so awesome at this at SolutionStream. So we have 100 employees. We've been doing this for about 12 years. We have project managers, software architects, programmers, mobile developers, graphic designers, interaction designers, testers, and then the administrative staff that supports all of that, so that we can take any one of these projects in any language, basically, whether it's .NET or Java or PHP, or if it's a mobile app and you want to tie it into all of that. There's nothing that we haven't done. There's nothing that we haven't seen. We've done all the tricky projects that they can be done. So we have clients like BYU as a client, has been for some time, Pearson Education, which is a massive education company making software for online education, as is Western Governors. We have Franklin Covey, Bear River Mutual Insurance. I mean, there's some good names, and it's really fun doing these projects for these companies. We are growing at about 30–40% per year. Jason Thielen and I are the original founders. He's been in here before too, and we started this 12 years ago, and then about halfway through we brought on our third partner, Chad Atkinson. So there's just the three of us that own the company. We've never taken any funding of any kind. We've never really had any debt of any kind. So for us, it's been a great way to do it. It's a service-based business, and we'll spend a few minutes talking about some of the pros and cons of a product versus a service. So maybe coming up to one of these, this is kind of the world we live in. Let me just show you this quick little joke here. Our project plan will follow the usual arc. Phase 1 will be unwarranted optimism supported by delusions of competence. In Phase 2, obstructionists will slither out of their lairs and try to smother our dreams. Ignorance and envy will fuel rumors that get repeated until they morph into common knowledge. Resources will be allocated based on misinformation and favoritism. Requirements will drift until the project is both undesirable and impossible. That brings us to the second week. And then he says, I want my unwarranted optimism back. So another way of saying that, and this is actually much more true to form, is these are the 6 phases of a project. You might experience this in school as well. When you get into a really serious long-term project, this is actually true, but also funny. wild enthusiasm. Then you get into total confusion. Then everyone goes into disillusionment, search for the guilty, punishment of the innocent, promotion of the non-participants. So the point here is these large-scale projects, they're really tough. I mean, make no mistake, there's a reason why out in industry, most companies fail to get the things they're trying to do internally done on time. They fail to get them done correctly. They fail to deliver what customers actually need. And that's kind of the very genesis of SolutionStream, of why we felt like we wanted to do this in the first place. So where it started was probably, we got to back up a lot of years. And I didn't know that it actually started here. But when I was a young teenager, for some reason that I did not understand, my dad felt like it was important for us to all learn how to sell. So he had us selling stuff, and it was crazy stuff. We would collect Christmas trees from people's yards and charge them $2 to take them to the dump. And I didn't know, everyone was signing up for this, and all these parents were handing us money, and we thought we were rock stars. I didn't realize that the city will pick these up for free a week later. I think my dad was onto that. We then took yarn, and we got multiple hangers and wrapped them up and went around to all the neighbors who I'm sure loved us, and we sold them these cool hangers that wouldn't indent your clothes, because they were wrapped in yarn. And wonderful parents and all these people around us, they just bought them like crazy. We thought we were the most awesome salespeople in the world. Then my mom had the idea of making these wreaths. And we'd get all these old grapevines off our back fence, rip them off, we'd put them in the bathtub and soak them till they're wet, and then we'd fold them up into this wreath. And then my mom would decorate it with flowers, and we could sell these for 15 or 20 bucks. And you'd get people in the neighborhood buying those. I'm sure they just loved us because of the stuff we were coming around to do. But what that got into our minds was this idea that we could interact with people, we could sell things, we could talk to people, we could be comfortable with it. And it just gave us a confidence level that we didn't even know we had. And I say we, because me and my brothers doing that. So that's kind of the crazy start of the entrepreneurial flair. The next part of it kind of was the next phase of growing up was when computers first came out. Does that make me sound really old? I'm sure it does. But I remember. The first computers that came out was these little consoles that you could program in basic language. I mean, we're not talking mobile phones. We're not talking websites. This is, you got to go 10 years ahead for that. But no one knew how to run the new home computers. But at home, I sat there tinkering with it. I sat there figuring out how the innards work, taking it apart, breaking half of the ones my parents bought. And I was just having fun. I was not on some master chart to become, a business person. I was just there literally having fun messing around. But I learned how to program on that computer. I learned how to hack the games. I learned how to load a game and then inspect all the memory portions and find out where your health was, and then go in and change your health so that when you played the game you had full health again. Hacker stuff, right? And I was just having fun with it. I didn't realize that I was actually learning. But what I was actually doing was paying this price. You guys heard of the 10,000 hour rule? Malcolm Gladwell, great book. He writes a lot of great books, but Outliers is one of them. I was paying the price early of learning something and getting really good at something that I thought everybody knew. In fact, it didn't even dawn on me when my dad, from his office, he brought home some new equipment, and I had it up and running with the word processor and was printing and doing some of this stuff. His office people came to our house to see how I'd set that up. It didn't even dawn on me that I was just like, what? This is how it works. So now I experience that with my kids because they really get technology too, and they get everything, every little detail what your phone does. So I was paying that price of getting really good at something. I went to school and got 2 degrees, one from BYU. I was in your program here. It was wonderful. And then I went to another school that we won't mention up north, got my MBA there. Somehow I heard it was better to have a degree from 2 different places instead of one. But in hindsight, I would have come to BYU. And up there, it was really cool because it was the very first real entrepreneurial experiences that I started having. I was in the MBA program there. I was paying my way through school. I didn't want any debt when I came out. I wanted to just launch into my career. And so I started working on the side doing programming jobs. And I had no clue what I was doing, but I was winging it. And I was pretending to these customers that I knew what I was doing, because I'd go in and talk to them and say, oh, yeah, I can build that. You bet. And I'd go back home like, oh, my gosh, you know, looking through the book, how do I build this? And then I'd come back and try and show it to them. And the first couple of those were really rough. I mean, I got fired literally a couple times from these customers. They weren't your quote-unquote employers, but they're people that you had taken the effort to find, land, and then have them pay you to do consulting work. And I got fired. And it was rough. I was learning, you know, more of this, right? So I was paying that price, and I didn't know it, but I was still having fun coding and learning how to sell and learning how to put all the pieces together. So I graduated. Oh, what was fun about that is I realized I could work for $10 an hour as a computer TA, and that was nice. You know, I could do my homework while I was at work. But the real money was $40 an hour doing this consulting work. So as long as I didn't get fired from the customers and I gave them what they wanted, I was making great money. I was really enjoying it. So that was the first aha moment of like, hey, my time is worth 4 times programming while I'm having fun. You know, this is like what I want to be doing. So that was an aha moment of, I'm having fun and they're paying me awesome money to do this. Something there. I skipped past this slide too quick. In your life, there's these defining moments, you know, that you can think back on that really define and change the course of what you're trying to do. Now, this is one guy's defining moment. Fortunately, none of ours, right? We're not going to have any experience like this. But one of my defining moments was when I was at this, up at the U getting my MBA, they did a trade. It's ironic that they did a trade for these professors, and this one professor this was like my most defining moment. He was from BYU. He came up, and they swapped, and the U professor went down to BYU for the quarter or whatever. And this guy, he just completely broke all the rules up there about talking about church and your ward and about the gospel and his testimony. And I mean, I'm sure everyone in the class was like, what are you doing? You know, but I thought the advice he gave was good. And some of the things he said was, actually, I think I skipped ahead. Sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah. So one bit of advice that he gave was that he always wanted a business that made him money while he wasn't there at work. You know, he had this idea that he could be on the beach or he could be off plane or doing what he wanted to be doing, and there's this machine there just printing money the whole time he's away. And that kind of stuck with me, like as the goal. Like if I just have to sit there coding every hour and that's when I get paid, but then when I stop programming, I'm not getting paid anymore, that's great, but it's not as good as it could be. So that was always in the back of my mind. Then a second bit of advice that I got was from another business leader who was a great mentor to me. I told him what I wanted to do and I was going to start a consulting company and I wanted to do it right out of my MBA school. He said, it'd be better if you went and got some industry experience. Go work for these companies, see what all their problems are, get in there deep, understand who they are and why they behave the way they do. Then go back and do what you think you're going to do, and it'll make a big difference. And that was really valuable advice. So for 3 or 4 years, I actually went and worked for three different companies and started learning, still paying that 10,000 hour rule, you know, learning what this was all about. And what I figured out at these companies was that they didn't really, despite all these professionals, I mean, like a team of 100 people in a department who are all very well paid college graduates, couldn't figure out how to get software done. I mean, yeah, they could code, but they couldn't get it implemented. They couldn't talk to the customers. They couldn't get it on time. They couldn't keep it in budget. I mean, there was just all these problems. And actually, I got really frustrated there because I just wanted to deliver meaningful things to customers who appreciated it. And all I got was politics, and so much of the time my team was sitting there. They wouldn't let us program on anything because the company couldn't decide what we should be working on. And I'm just going, we're sitting here wasting time working on nonsense when we could be building that for that group. And they were like, well, we don't have authority to do that. They haven't given us permission. So I just got really sick of that scene and punched out. But before I punched out, I actually decided that I need to go. I had become a manager for a few years, got my MBA and thought I wanted to be a manager. So before I punched out, I wanted to refresh all my programming skills. So I actually asked them to fire me from my manager job and that I should become a programmer again. And they looked at me like, what? You know, you've worked all this to become, you know, to get up here, so to speak. But I just wasn't having fun. So I learned through that process a lot about myself, about what I liked. I thought I was on a trajectory. You know, I got my MBA, I was going to become a VP, blah, blah, blah. Corner parking lot, corner office. I realized, you know what, that's not even fun. I don't even want that anymore. I enjoy programming and delivering this value and these solutions to people. So I went to work for a very small company where I got to do that. And it was very rewarding. And that was the launch point for me and Jason to meet up, and we launched SolutionStream. That was in about 2000. I got to move along a little faster here. So we started with just the two of us. And true to form, we went and found our first big client. And we told them we knew what to do, we knew how to do it, and we were the best at it. And then we went home, we were like, oh no, we just sold this huge project. How are we going to do this? So we were scared to death, and somehow we figured out how to do it. But the cool thing is that we had set it up, we'd set it up right. So I'm kind of jumping around here. Let's see. We set it up right so that we had padded our landing. We didn't want to just jump out into the void and have no idea. You know, that seems like the ultimate act of bravery, right? Just take the plunge, take the leap, and do it. I had a family at that point. I had a mortgage, and I had some financial responsibilities. So the way we figured that out was we won't quit our current jobs until we have our first jobs lined up. But as soon as we had that lined up, and we actually lined up jobs that would pay enough that it actually was, in our first project, we had earned our entire year's salary from before. That was pretty exciting. We thought, hey, worst case scenario, we do this for 6 months. It doesn't turn out. We head back to corporate America to work, and we made our money, and we're safe. But it actually, you know, here 13 years later, turned out very nice. It didn't end up like that at all. Our first huge paycheck is a big moment. We did this project for about 6, 8 months, and they were giving us some small paychecks along the way, but finally we got this massive paycheck, and we're like, holy cow, we can just go buy a beautiful car for cash, and we just did that. It was just crazy. We're like, should we just go buy some Tahoes? Yeah, let's go buy some Tahoes. And we just walked into the dealership, and brand new car. I never bought a brand new car in my life, and I haven't since. But that was a fun experience, and it's one that stuck with me when you thought, I made so much money, I can do this. You know, it wasn't maybe the wisest financial decision, but it sure was fun. So, coming back to some of the lessons we were learning here. Number one, you need to understand what's driving you. You know, I didn't know that. You don't know it, even at this age. But you need to be figuring it out. Like, what motivates you? What just keeps you up at night? What is so exciting and so fun? You do it on your own. You do it in your spare time. You dream about it. You read books for fun about it. If you can combine that with a business and something that someone will pay for, that's an excellent opportunity. Because if you pay the 10,000-hour rule over a period of years, and you're doing something, you're the most passionate person about it that you know, you're going to have something awesome to offer. So don't get too caught up worrying about the perfect little business plan or the perfect model or something like that. That'll all fall into place. The first thing is you need to understand what motivates you. What's going to make you stick at this for 5 to 10 years to become the best at something that people will pay for. That's critical. The second thing is to take smart risks. We took plenty of risks along the way, but I don't feel like we ever took an insane risk where like it was all on red, it was all or nothing, you know. We took small steps, and sometimes it felt like we were being a little too cautious, or maybe it wasn't as exciting or thrilling as it could have been, but man, it's not exciting or thrilling to be broke or to lose your home or something crazy like that, which can happen if you take crazy risks. So we padded the landing, like I said. We lined up a project, and then we went for it. We We did everything with no debt, ever. There's certain businesses that you can't do that, though. Risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. That is true. We talked a lot about the 10,000-hour rule. Be the best at something. So back to that real quick, in case you haven't read that. The point of that message was they did this study over the course of many years, and they looked at all these different people, individuals who were the absolute pinnacle of what they did. They looked at Yo-Yo Ma, cellist player. They looked at Steve Jobs and Bill Gates in software. They looked at the guys who invented the internet and who invented the computer. And they looked at sports, the best people in sports. And they said, are these people born with this? Is that why they are that good? They must be genetic. I mean, to be that excellent at something. And what they found in common was actually quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Physically, in a sports-oriented thing, they were more mediocre physically. In terms of intelligence and IQ and all that other measurements, in terms of business, they were average. The thing that was not average is that at an early age, they had this. They had early access, and they got about 10,000 hours, which is about 5 years full-time work at a particular skill set, and they stuck to it, and they became the best. So just think about that. What are you getting to be the best at? That's going to be an awesome place to start your career right there. And that's why it needs to be something you're passionate about too, because 5 years, 40 hours a week, it adds up. The fourth thing too is always be learning. I mean, it's in school you're always learning, so that doesn't make a lot of sense maybe. But once you're out, don't stop. I mean, I know too many people that are just kind of parked. They're parked in their career. They're parked in life. They don't read a lot of books. They don't read magazines about their industry. They don't really stretch themselves about anything. They're kind of just on autopilot. Maybe that's okay. A lot of people are happy with that, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that's the way you should or shouldn't be, but just know yourself. For me, I get really bored quick. And all my jobs when I was at these companies, if 3 months, 4 months in one position, I was so bored by then. I had to move to something else. And that's just how I am. And so everything I'm doing, I realize I can give it a few months, and then I'm going to be trying to switch onto something else. So be aware of that. I'm aware of myself. If I'm trying to, squirrel out of something I need to stick to longer. But always be learning, always be studying and gaining more knowledge. And then lastly there, if it stops being fun, you got to change it up. The quickest way to stagnate your life, your happiness, your career is just to stop having fun. I sincerely hope every one of you finds a career or something to do in your life professionally that is just a blast. For me, when I go to work in the morning, and I have relatives that I've told this to, and they look at me like they honestly don't believe what I'm saying, and they're kind of stuck. I can't wait to go to work. I have so much fun. Every minute is like, this is so exciting, what I get to do every day. I just can't believe it. I get paid for this. Wow. Can I do it longer? Oh, no. I'm going home. That's fun, too. I love to be with my family. I love to travel. So you got to keep it all in balance. But, man, work is a blast. So let me see if I skipped over anything before we get into some not technical stuff, but I know this is the tech series, so we might talk about some nitty-gritty about building sites and things. So back to kind of the early motivations of why I started this, and maybe you'll resonate to this, or maybe this will just like be the seed that springs out later. I realized that I already had passion for this. I was already having fun. I might as well get paid for this. And I've said that, so I don't need to go elaborate much more on that. I just couldn't believe that I could get paid for having as much fun as we're having. The second thing is, when I was at these jobs, I quickly realized, if you're trying to make the trade-off of, well, should I work for a company and be an employee, or should I have my own thing? This became so obvious so quick to me, because I felt like when I was working really, really hard, and I saw so many other people just kind of coasting, and half their day was literally just, I don't know, doing what, wasted. I'd go to my boss literally with a question of like, hey, if I'm going to get everything done, or let's say I get more done than this other person in the same amount, if we're supposed to do this amount, can I just go home, after 4 hours if I'm already done? He's like, no, you got to work 8 hours. I'm like, well, what if I can get 2 or 3 times done more than someone else? Can I have more time off? There were all these rules and boundaries around it, and it just frustrated me. I was like, what do you mean I can only have 2 weeks off? What if I'm getting more done than you ever expected? Can I have 4 or 5 weeks off? What if I can be off on my vacation and still get work done for you? Companies don't want to work with those kinds of people, right? They're like, go start your own company. So there were all these freedom issues, where I got, where I just felt walled in. And basically I realized that I wanted to kind of just define my own job and write my own future. And I realized I could get paid as much as, or as little as, a customer is willing to pay me. Well, how much is that? We'll never find out unless we try. I can have as much time off or as little time off as my market, my customers will let me have. But I don't report to anybody for that, I can take as much time as if I want. And at stretches of time, I've taken months off from work. Months. And it's like, wow, it's awesome. I'm ready to come back and work hard now. But we've set that up to do that. It's taken a lot of years to get to that point. But it's just been such a blessing to have the history, the background, the teaching, BYU, blessings from heaven, everything to get to this point. And I'm just it's a wonderful thing to have. So now let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of getting stuff built. That's probably a question that's on a lot of your minds. Let me ask a quick question here before we get into this. How many of you are business majors here? Just raise your hands. So the rest are out from a different college here at BYU? Cool. How many of you are have already started a business? Let's see. Raise your hands. Or are thinking about starting a business? Okay, so a good handful are thinking of this. Okay. Of the people that are going to start a business or think you ever might start a business, do you think it would be web-based or mobile or something like that? A few. Okay. All right. So fire out any questions you have as we go here too. But we can talk turkey about getting stuff built. I mean, that seems like if you're going to start a company, that's all the people I ever mentor or talk to. There's always a website. There's always a mobile app. There's always social media. Something's involved like that, right? So these are some of the quick tips that we'll talk about. First of all, I think most people do not appreciate how expensive software is to build. And I mean, that sounds crazy coming from, we like to make a lot of money at it. It's great fun. But the reality is all of everything that goes into building a wonderful piece of software is every bit as expensive and complicated as a massive building. Like take this building we're in right here. Think about the year of planning or 2 years of planning that it took to architect it. Think about all the code and all the wires and all the engineering, all the bars and all the teams and the plumbing and electrical and the carpeting and the lighting. I mean, I'm not a building guy, I don't even know. But $20 million building, something like that, right? A project can cost tens of millions of dollars. I mean, we do projects that are maybe not in tens of millions, but definitely millions of dollars. And they do take that much planning and dozens of people and multiple years to get great software built. That's big scale stuff. But even small stuff, I mean, like take an app that everyone uses. I'm just guessing here. I don't have real solid numbers here, but the Facebook app. Everybody uses the Facebook app pretty much. I'm going to guess that Facebook has spent, to build that thing, they've done, I don't know if you realize, but they've done 2 full different versions of it now. The first version nobody liked, and it was problematic, and then they replaced it about a year or 2 ago with one that works much better, but separate platforms. I'm guessing they spent $4 to $5 million on that little tiny app. Not their website, not their databases, not their marketing, just the app. I mean, that's a lot of money. If you add up all their other stuff that they're doing, they're spending tens of millions of dollars on it. So I mean, that's the scale of the expense. Most of the customers that come in and they have what they define as a small idea, quick little app, I mean, before they even get a little ways into their discussion, they're already talking $50,000, $70,000, $100,000. That's common, okay? So be prepared for how expensive it can be. There's ways to mitigate that, and we're going to talk about some of those. But don't fall into the trap of the second one. You can have it good, you can have it fast, or you can have it cheap, but you got to just pick two. You can't have all three of those usually. If you want it good and you want it fast, it's not going to be cheap. If you want it good and you want it to be cheap, it's going to be real slow. You see how this works? If you want it fast and you want it cheap, yeah, you can get that. Well, some people will build it fast and cheap, but what did you give up? It's not good. Yes?
So is the expense due to just a low amount of people that can create apps well, like a low supply, or why is it so expensive?
It's so expensive because every single thing that an application does is very complicated. Like if you just load up a page, like if we were to load the Facebook web page here, which you're probably familiar with, on that page, for that page to render, there might be 100 things that happened. And of those 100 things that happened to lay the page out for you, there's a million lines of code. Someone had to write a million lines of code to make that page work just like that. You know, and I don't want to make the case that every app and everything is that expensive, but large-scale things are that expensive because someone has to design the graphics. Well, before you design the graphics, someone has to define, you know, the whole market for it. They have to talk about the customers and what they actually want. Someone has to mock up all the images and all the pictures and the flow, and then they have to design graphics for it, and then they have to attach code to it, and they have to design databases, and they have to attach them to databases, and they have to attach all the middleware, and then they have to test it, then they have to roll it out, and then they have to do that many, many times before you have a version that actually that's bug-free enough that customers will want to use. So, I mean, that's the cost and the expense of the software. I don't know if that answers it, but it's not only that the people who do this stuff cost a lot. That's true. I mean, most programmers that are worth their weight are making on the low end. They start at companies like ours in the 70 to 80,000 a year range and go up to 100. And then they go to companies that way overpay, I think, but that can pay. You know, they go for 120, 130,000 bucks a year. Good programmers. Good graphic designers are in the same category, $70,000 to $100,000 per person. So when a company like ours, you know, has a whole team of those, they're the greatest at what they do, but to turn that machinery on and get it to make something for you, it's expensive. Yeah. So it's a good segue into this piece here. So the alternative to that is what? You know, well, you can use people around you that are in college still that can code, and that's good, you know. But I guess what it's like trying. It depends on what you're trying to build. If you're going to try and build a house, would you want to have the whole team that's building that house be, you know, would you want it to be their first project, or would you want them to know that they had built 10 houses before and they knew what they were doing? That's the difference between, you know, someone right out of college and a company like ours. We've built 100 homes, 1,000 homes, so we know what we're doing. But it can get done. It's just going to be rough. Let's put it that way. Our company, we fix a lot of projects. So companies come to us and said, hey, we had this team of people. They were offshore. We wanted it fast, and we wanted it cheap. So we went offshore and got it done. And now we have to fix it. So our company, we fix it. So that's a long answer to that. The next point, tough choices to make. The technologies that are out there and the ways to build everything, there's a lot of them. I mean, that's why a company like ours exists, is because there's a lot of tricky choices. Like, what database should you use? There's like 5 or 6 major databases that power your data. On the high end, you can use Oracle. You can use Microsoft SQL Server. You can use free stuff like MySQL. You can use new ones called NoSQL, Hadoop. I mean, there's a bunch of these. What do you use? You got to get experience knowing why you'd use one or the other. On the languages, should you build it in Java? Should it be in .NET if it's web-based? Or PHP? What are the pros and cons of all of that? If it's mobile, you know, if it's on iOS, should you do it native or should you do it HTML5? Can you share some of the code between your iOS app and your Android app? Should you be thinking about Microsoft? No, shouldn't be thinking about it. No, I'm kidding. Not yet, anyway. So if you're going to go out and build something, I would highly recommend using a company like ours and go get an estimate. So get a couple different estimates, because you'll be surprised at how drastically different the estimates will be, and you'll get really educated. If they'll give you enough time on those estimates, they will educate you for free. I'm giving you a good tip here on what you should be doing. So our company, we get fished all the time by companies that are not serious, but they want a rock star team to kind of give them an outline, you know, of what they're about to do. And we train our people to kind of be on alert for that, because we don't want to give too much away for free, especially if they're not going to be a real customer. But this is legit, all right? It's not illegal. It's completely legitimate to do. So if you're going to build something, go get multiple good estimates. Get good advice. You know, talk to people, friends that you know that have multiple projects, a lot of experience, and get the foundation laid correctly. I can't tell you how many times companies have kind of gone and they surged, and then their system couldn't handle it, and it fizzled. Couldn't handle all the users. They built it wrong from the start. It was so full of bugs it couldn't be fixed. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, so get good advice from the start. And then really pay attention to this one. And then this is for me mainly. Software, all this technical stuff that needs to be built, that's not the hardest part of starting a new business. As much as I would like to think it is, you know, being a technology guy myself, I think it's harder coming up with a brilliant idea, understanding your market, developing that market, putting a plan in place to reach the market, and then build a piece of software that addresses those needs, and then do that iteratively so that you have, you know, a way to build cash flow and something sustainable. That's really tricky stuff. The software, it can be done. It can be done right. So how are we doing on time? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to end with the thought. 5 years ago, we were well into this, and we had 30, 40, 50 employees, and we were just surging. I couldn't believe, you know, how great it was. And now, 5 years, 7 years later, 2013, we're double or triple that, and it's just going. I just can't believe, you know, how far we've come and where we can go. So I just encourage all of you to dream big, you know. Write your own check, write your own future, and do what you're passionate about. Thank you.